Welcome back to another episode of Tech for Thought, where we break down the latest in news in AI, finance, and technology. So today is going to be a little bit different. We're gonna talk about some stories we've just been looking out for. I know we've been texting in the chat a lot and a bunch of really, really cool stuff that came out recently. Specifically, one thing that I saw, I sent in the chat if you guys saw it. So there's this defense company called Anduril, and they have this it's called Eagle Eye, is that's the name of the product. And it's basically like this integrated it integrates with the ballistic helmets that US soldiers wear, and that presumably it'd be for armed forces in the US. And it uses AI to like for threat detection, AI based threat detection. So like you're seeing basically like a soldier would wear this helmet, and then they would have these goggles that come with it and stuff. And they could then see like what the enemy's position is, or like whoever they're fighting in a combat zone, and they'd be able to see their position while they have cover. And it's things like that that really like change the battlefield, and just in general, like it's crazy to think of that as a technological advantage like we're capable of now doing. And so I guess the idea from a lot of what I've seen online is it allows seamless connection among like the units, and for it also helps with autonomous decision making. And so that's like from the data that they're getting from the drones, or just a bunch of data from wherever, and then it allows basically every soldier to be filled in. And they said it was the articles said that it was like having like the entire operation or mission objective in their in inside their helmet. And so it's really cool. It's cool seeing how the technology actually works, because it looks like a video game. If you saw the video that I sent, it looks like something straight out of Call of Duty. And so it's super cool. But wanted to get your guys' thoughts on what you guys thought about it, and what you think about the safety implications with something like this.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's always going to be, advances in technology, etc. Um, you know, Something like this, you said, it tracks, the, surrounding area for
Hmm.
and then predicts whether
Enemies.
something is a uh, threat or not, is what you're
Hmm.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at least that portion is AI, and all that training, and it protects our soldiers and things like that. But
Hmm.
that HUD thing, and being able to see it in the helmet, that portion, technology like that has been out for a while.
Hmm.
But that specific threat detection is, I'd like to probably understand, how they came up with that training material. Because, how does it, prevent hallucinations where something, might be a threat, and,
Or like it locks onto something that isn't there and stuff like
right,
that.
like is
Yeah.
that, up to the soldier then to be like, oh no, the model is wrong. This is not really a threat. I
Hmm.
shouldn't, I don't need to do anything.
Yeah.
Um, so like it could get a little hairy there, and iffy. Um, you would hope that there's that human in the loop aspect like we've been talking
Yeah.
about for a while.
Literally.
um but yeah, I mean, the technology is, I guess, is great because it protects soldiers, and where they don't necessarily need to be in the line of sight of said danger. They can be in a building or something, and they're surveying their surrounding. But yeah, like I said, I'd like to know that there is some type of human in the loop there that you know allows them to check the threat detection themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
I
it
want to know.
allows, they've even been working with Meta. Sorry to cut you off. They've even been working with Meta, because Meta is really good at just augmented reality.
Mhm.
And I thought that whole aspect was really cool. But go ahead. Sorry, what were you saying, Chris?
I was just curious, how how distant this technology is from kind of what fighter pilots use, because I know that they have HUDs on their like goggle system things that they wear.
Hmm.
So I wonder how different this will be and how much more complicated it'll be to keep secure. Because I mean, a jet is completely different as far as security when it comes to hackability, disruption, and so on. Because I mean, it's a lot harder to stop something like a jet as far as that goes than it is somebody walking around on the ground. My
Hmm.
biggest thing would definitely be around security and how they know when something's been hacked or taken over. Like there's a lot of different security measures that would have to be put in place and alerts and everything like that. Because if you're using technology that's, looking at what you're looking at and somebody hacks into that, then it gives away your position, it gives away, you know, your team's positions. If there's anything being communicated, it gives that away.
Dude,
So,
give it to the sniper. Man, I feel like the sniper, like somebody with the
right.
sniper, you have this mounted up on your helmet, and like you have eagle eye. You immediately know like if you're in a I guess concealed position and you're using a sniper that has extreme range, you probably like to know like how far it is the target that you're shooting. And so something like this could be really valuable in that sense because you're like you have all that information right there and right in front of you. You have to go through the manual labor of actually calculating all the trajectory when all that data will be right in front of your face. And it'd be
Well,
really
this is like,
cool.
yeah, this is really interesting because it talks about all the different overlays they can do. I don't know, have you ever like driven a car that has a heads-up display? So I don't know, you don't drive cars, do you? Up in there in Chicago? I'm just kidding, I know you. Uh,
There
have you ever driven
was
one with the heads-up display though, where
I
it shows like
yeah.
your speed and the like if you have maps up, it shows like where to
Uh-huh.
turn and stuff like that.
Yep.
I this is saying that they can show teammate locations, threat alerts from different areas, hot zones where your teammates have reported, and apparently it's like selective. So different
Dang.
modes like an in combat mode, um scouting modes, like stuff like that, and like a non-combat mode where you're just looking at your mission objectives, ETA to certain zones and stuff like that. So that's pretty handy. I mean, I think in general. So, but I think whenever you're in the heat of battle, I think something that they have to take into consideration, especially with us as like developers and stuff like that, we get excited about all the tech and all the cool things you can do and stuff like that. But they need to remember to keep it in kind of a safer window where they're not getting, what's the word I'm looking for here, like overcrowded or
Hmm.
confused because there's too much happening on their face and in their vision. So at the end of the day, they still need to be able to use their own weapons at their own ability. So you don't want a whole bunch of dots and lights and arrows and text and all that up at the same time, in the middle of a battle. So I think they'll have to find a balance there. But I think the mixed reality technology has been being developed for what, like hardcore in like the last decade a lot,
Yeah.
like Google Vision,
Hmm.
Apple's stuff, or all these different AR, VR technologies. I mean, you can use it on like Snapchat for the last 8 years, like the technology's existed on a low level and it's just been getting better. I think Apple Vision Pro's stuff that they released showed a lot. And obviously, like you said, like the Meta Quest, that's mixed, right? Mixed reality, AR, VR.
Yeah, I don't know the difference between mixed reality. Is mixed like what's the difference between augmented and mixed re VR? Do you guys
Well,
know?
So augmented reality AR is, you can look at your um surroundings, right? And then stuff is placed in your surroundings. So like it can identify like your surroundings and it basically like puts things in your surrounding, right?
have you
Hmm.
And
seen the
then
Apple Vision Pro stuff where they like
yeah,
put stuff
basically,
down? That's what
yeah.
AR is.
basically. And then, stuff like Meta Quest and all that stuff is where you're wearing that whole headset HUD thing, where you're actually engrossed into the metaverse, where you can't see any of your surroundings. You're just in that virtual reality where you're just looking at virtual
Well, it's like a
surroundings.
mix. So like, augmented reality is, I would say, like, I think a good mixed reality thing would be Apple Vision Pro, because have you seen like where you can basically mute everything when you're watching a movie? So that would
Yep.
be
Hmm.
your virtual reality. And then your
Yep.
augmented reality is like, oh, I'm cooking, so I'm gonna set a timer here, and I'm gonna do something over here, and I'm gonna pull up a article for me to, or a recipe up here. Like that's augmented reality. So it's like when you can still see your surroundings, but there's stuff that's augmented. And then
Yep.
virtual reality is I can't like
Full immersion.
see
Yep.
anything, you're full immersion. And then mixed reality
Oh,
is you can switch back and forth.
I'm trying to find a video right now of the actual eagle eye.
Yeah, I think seeing AI implemented into mixed reality technology is gonna be really interesting though.
Let me see
Yeah,
if
for
I
sure.
can pull it up.
I've been excited about augmented reality for a really long time. I know whenever I was younger and seeing the Google Glass and all of that, I thought that was super cool when I was younger. And then it failed because nobody was really interested, or they didn't see like a proper use case for it. It was expensive. So,
Yeah.
and it was ugly, let's be honest. So,
Yeah. I mean, I just
um,
don't know if I want to spend $3,000
no.
on those
I'm waiting for
headsets.
Apple Vision Pro. You haven't heard anything about it since the release, I feel like. Like there's been no updates around their plans or intentions or anything like that. It's like I feel like they almost took everybody off of their Vision Pro and started focusing on this new AI push of theirs, and they just kind of put that on the back burner for now or something. Like, or they're waiting to figure something out. I don't know. It's been kind of, I was expecting them to release the Vision Pro, and then after a year or two, like, normally they'll announce plans after a year to after gauging interest and stuff, which there was a lot of interest in the Vision Pro, and it is really cool. It's impressive. I've worn it and used it, and it's super cool. But yeah, I'm not paying $3,600 for that, and it's just not accessible to most people. But normally they would announce like a more accessible version. Like that's what they've done with pretty much any of their technology in the past. Of like, you know, we're gonna start it out at a premium price that most people can't afford. We'll gauge interest, and then we'll balance it down as time goes on. Not that
Mm.
a iPhone is exactly cheap, but
Yeah. Okay, I think I got it right here. Let's go. I mean, this is, and it's a like a 48-second video, but I mean, this looks like it's straight out of a video game. I'm gonna request. All right, let me know when you guys can see my screen.
We can see
yep.
it.
All right, check this out. There's no audio.
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah, there is.
Alpha set.
I mean, dude, this looks like a
One
video
Tango
game.
West container in the open.
Yeah, this looks like this is more augmented reality.
See, look, see the red dot in the top left where it showed
Yeah,
like where the enemy was marked, and then you got blue dots. Oh, and they can see, look in the bottom right, they can see what like
yeah.
their, oh, and they can see the heading
So
and
that
everything.
bottom the right
Wow.
thing looks like a drone.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like they can see drone camera footage.
Yeah.
Yeah, real-time data.
See,
I mean,
but
it's
you see that like
Crazy.
timer thing at the end that said threat defeated? Like, I feel like that's one of those things where that's something that you wouldn't want in like an actual battle thing. You don't want every time somebody's killed and threat
Yeah,
defeated.
that'd be annoying. It'd be
Yeah,
spammy.
yeah, that kind of just
Yeah.
feels like a
I mean, look at this thing.
video game thing, but like
Yeah.
more like a novelty type thing.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
But stuff like this on the bottom right, that would be
Sniper
tremendously
all
helpful.
day.
Yeah, I mean
That's
that
crazy.
portion would be good.
And like they could
But
probably customize this really easily.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah, for sure. for
I
sure.
don't. I honestly don't know how I would feel about the red and blue dots up top either in an actual like battle scenario. Because what,
Mm.
you're just gonna have a bunch of red dots everywhere and blue dots everywhere. You're not gonna have time to really break that down. I mean, I've never been in battle, so
Yeah, I mean, I
can't
feel
Yeah.
say.
like, they would need to train a lot with this, right? Because some of it is
Yeah. Oh
distracting.
yeah.
But I mean, once you get used to it, I feel like,
It's
because,
Yeah.
gonna be
they
like
train a lot, like they do
yeah.
drills all the time. So,
Yeah.
um, I would assume that, once you get used to it, then, it'll be fine. But
Slice back.
yeah,
Yeah.
they'd, they would definitely train a lot for sure.
I'm impressed by it. I think that's really cool, and I definitely think the direction that you can take that is really impressive. I'm interested to see how they, because I know this is part of the military's like they've got a grander plan. I forget what the thing is called that they're doing.
Is
I
this
was
this
reading
is
on it.
Apple Vision Pro? Okay.
What is this doing?
This is Apple Vision Pro. Hand physics. I
Yeah,
guess
see,
it's like
that's
some
kind of
sort
the
of
thing
game.
that whenever Apple Vision Pro was initially released, that was kind of what they marketed it as is we really want developers to get hands-on with it more than anybody so that they can
Mm,
develop stuff like this, I'm sure.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
they kind
that's
of let the
cool.
people get it more prepared for the public than just releasing it to the general public and expecting everybody to have full access all the time.
Interesting.
Basically, they release it. They basically instead of having like employees go in and build all this stuff out, they just put it out for a ridiculous price and let people that like the technology develop all the use cases and the technology for the use cases.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's, they weren't gonna, update, Instagram and being able to use Instagram with this. Like they weren't gonna do that for every single app, obviously, right?
Yeah,
So they obviously left it up to, just like, foldables, right? Samsung or Google, wasn't going to, uh, update every single app, right? It was up to the app developers to, um, make their apps work better with, foldables, tablets,
yeah.
etc.
Dang, dude, that is so sick to watch right there. See, this kind of makes me wonder how people will use, I don't know if you've seen like there's like the Tesla bots, and then there's another one that just got released recently that's like a competitor to the Tesla bot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wonder how something like that mixed with this could go,
Yeah.
I feel like especially in the military, you have someone kind of see through the eyes of one of those and walk around through like a battlefield to see stuff or something like that.
Yep.
Like I just
Yeah.
feel like the possibilities are truly endless with it.
The
Especially
possibilities. Yeah.
now that we're seeing like these TRMs come up. I wonder how, I feel like that could probably be applicable in scenarios like this where you're locating things or you're figuring out. I mean, especially with puzzles and like stuff like that, like I just think in a problem solving format, these TRMs that are coming out and kind of blowing up will probably be a really good, will probably grow well with this too, especially if you think of like a military stance, right? You save as much processing power as you can to do more with less, but also probably be a little bit more confident in its response and its analysis.
Well, I mean, all of that is being done on the cloud, right? So it's not like they really care about processing power. It's not like everything's being done on device on the HUD. So,
You don't think even, or we'll say outside of the HUD, you don't think they would have some sort of local system set up for certain scenarios?
um, no, I mean, the whole processing of all of that is, they probably have, something like a Starlink or something to that allows them to get connectivity. They have sat phones, etc. as well.
Well,
So
yeah.
all of that is definitely done on, through satellite communication and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
somebody eventually could, possibly do something and like the remotest area of remotest areas. But even then, military has a bunch of satellites. So
Yeah, I
um,
think you're right too on the Starlink system. The stuff that is enabled is pretty insane. I know I have an old friend that he moved like the middle of nowhere in Colorado and just basically got Starlink and is set up. He's able to like game, he's able to
It's
do his work,
crazy.
he's able to do everything. He just lives in the freaking middle of nowhere in Colorado.
yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I know
What
they did it for Ukraine too. Like,
yeah.
during the Ukraine stuff when their comms were disabled and all of that, they shipped a ton of them over there.
So what's this I heard you guys talking about before the pod. It was about the researcher, what's her name? Florent Dowdens. She came up with something that seemed pretty like almost like a breakthrough. AR recursive models is what it is. Tiny model on
Recursive models.
ARC.
Yeah.
Yeah, that the article you sent, the paper that she wrote. So basically from what you told me, I understand it is like so you put in your query as the user and then that prompts the model to then give you an answer, but then revise that answer to get to a good enough point where that it would deem as an acceptable answer as the output. Is that basically what it is?
Somewhat. So essentially, how you have, OpenAI, DeepSeek, Gemini. These are, models that are trained on billions and billions of parameters, right?
Hmm.
So, 200 billion parameters, 300 billion parameters, whatever billion parameters they have, right? So the idea is that, for these LLM companies, the idea was, the more parameters you put in, um, and, text-based reasoning, the better thinking answer you would get, right?
Hmm.
But the way that this researcher and Samsung is looking at it now is taking a TRM, right, a tiny recursion model, and this model is only 7 million parameters. That's crazy. Your iPhone
Hmm.
can run 4 billion parameters, right? So that means a 7 million parameter model is like basically anything can run this model, right? So
Hmm.
what it does is it takes a MLP model. um
MLP?
yeah, so it's a type of machine learning model. It's called a
Okay.
multi-layer perception model, right?
Hmm.
So what it does is it has a, depending on, so it can have a multitude of different multitude amount of layers, right? But for this model specifically, it has a input layer, a hidden layer, which can have the hidden, it can have, something can have multiple hidden layers, and then it has an output layer. And so what this model does is essentially when a user queries the, MLP model, it has a, it stores the user's answer as, let's say, X, right? And then it has Y, its initial answer, and then Z is its reasoning state, or it's like is what it's reasoned on and what it's reasoned. So when a user first queries, it has X filled, it has Y filled, Y being its initial answer, and Z is blank because it hasn't, done any recursive reasoning yet. So then what it does is then it looks at its answer and is like, and basically says, hey, does this is this the best answer I can give to this user? If not, it does a recursive reasoning. So then that reasoning is plugged into the Z variable on its internally, right? And then what it does is it compares the initial answer to the new answer plus its reason step.
Hmm.
So then recursively, it does that a bunch of times, replacing each
Hmm.
variable every time it's reasoned. And then once it thinks that, this answer is better than my original answer, and this is the best answer I can give, then it spits out the answer to the user. So it does this essentially in a hidden state rather than LLM, which has a chain of thought thinking process where that LLM uses, its billions of parameters and that are hosted in those transformers that it has, where it, has the user's input, then it, you know, reasons itself textually, talking to itself, chain of thought, and then spits out an answer. Now that uses tons of tokens, right? So that's
Hmm.
why reasoning models cost more, because it has more tokens, and because it has billions of parameters, it's using more compute power. This one is only 7 million parameters, and so it's using its own internal knowledge to think recursively, basically in an algorithmic way, without spitting something out to the user and then taking that basically spit out and thinking again and
Hmm.
constantly using tokens. So this is basically saying that the model that the big players are using shouldn't and doesn't necessarily need to be the case,
Hmm.
where you can use a smaller model to basically use its own parameters to refine its own answer and spit it out to the user without having
Yeah,
to, use billions of parameters.
on kind of the short front of that, the best kind of analogy that I've seen on it is, the TRM is more of like a student that has taken notes, and they're expected to take a one answer test, right? Or one question test. And we'll say it's open notes. They have maybe, like, let's say they have less notes technically, right? But they go over it multiple times. They think they have the answer initially. They go over their notes again. They realize, well, this is probably the better answer. Go over it again and again until they feel like more confident that they've got the correct answer. Whereas the LLM is more of a big squad or a big team of people trying to make a decision for the one question. And then obviously they're expending more resources, more time, and none of them really coming to a full confident decision because it's a larger group of a lot more notes and data, and they're all kind of trying to come to one conclusion. So even if it does come to the same conclusion, we'll just say it did, one person going over their notes methodically versus a bunch of people going over a mass amount of notes, which one's going to take less resources, which one's going to take less time, um, and so on. That's kind of the best analogy that I've seen, the way that makes the most sense for someone maybe not having that deep of technical knowledge. I don't know if that
Is
that sounds
this,
accurate enough to you.
do you guys think this is a step in like a next step in reaching AGI? I mean, if it's able to quote unquote think about its answers, does that prove like almost not sentient, fully sentience, but like, do you guys think it's a step in the right direction?
It's not really toward AGI, since I think Sahib mentioned this earlier. It's not processing like a human would process, right? It's not in order like that. So I'll actually flip over to you, Sahib, to kind of break that down further, honestly.
Yeah, so it's not unlike thinking models, where thinking models rely on large thought sequences essentially, and internal updates, kind of like human simulating what a human kind of would in an internal monologue. This one is doing everything through algorithmic self-correction, so it's more using pure machine learning type algorithmic thinking, rather than token text-based thinking, where an LLM gets the answer, prints out a set of reasoning steps, where then it processes each of those reasoning steps and then finally gives an answer. This essentially does all that internally using a recursive algorithm to refine its answer, essentially, where it's it's not trying to be it's not trying to think like a human. It's basically its own separate line of machine learning, I'll say, where it's not trying to follow the regular path that all these other people are trying to follow. Um,
Hmm.
so I don't. It might be a separate, different path towards a type of AGI where we're not trying to make a computer think like a human, but we're trying to take the way it thinks and augment it in a way where you know human might be thinking a different way and a computer might be thinking another way, but basically using the way a computer thinks and refining the way that and refining an answer that gets us close to uh, a human like answer, but not trying to make the computer think like a human. Basically, getting the same type of answer using the faculties that a algorithm or computer already has. But yeah, I mean, so essentially, what happened is that this model, all models to get their benchmark on how close they are to AGI, they take a set of two tests. So one is the ARC-AGI 1 and ARC-AGI 2. And so what these what these tests technically are you know models that analyze the human like thinking capabilities, and give a set of puzzles for these models to essentially solve. And so ARC-AGI 2 is the one that's harder, um, and so that's actually trained on that actually takes into account uh, like human inputs as well, and then matches whatever the LLM does against that, and that's why it's considered harder. ARC-AGI 1 technically can be brute forced through just computational power itself. So that's why generally models tend to score a bit more on that. Well, significantly higher on that. I shouldn't say a bit more.
Hmm.
But I do have a leaderboard here that we can look at. So let me go ahead and share that. Um, so we have this, leaderboard here. But let's go back to that GitHub repository to refresh us on the TRM here. So this is basically saying that this 7 million parameter model scored 45% on the lower difficulty test and 8% on the higher difficulty one. Now let's emphasize that this is a 7 million parameter model with an M. So let's go back to
Small.
this leaderboard here. So let's look at ChatGPT Pro 5 Pro, right? So it's scoring 70% on this ARC-AGI 1. So that's uh what is that, 25%
25%.
better
Yeah, 25%.
essentially on this test here. And then let's go to this ARC-AGI 2. It's scoring 18.3%, and that's
Yeah,
10% better,
10%
right?
variance. Yeah.
So there's speculation on how many parameters GPT-5 Pro is, but let's take the lower model, the lower number. Let's say it's 635 billion parameters. I don't know about you, but that doesn't equate to the same amount of increase in scoreability on this test versus the amount of
Yeah.
parameters on both models. So I'd say kind of laughable, I'd say,
Yeah.
because
Yeah. I
GPT-5
mean,
High has
1%.
totally,
basically.
has 1% increase, but billions and billions and billions of parameters more than that.
Hundreds of billions. What was it?
Yeah, than that tier.
635 we came across?
Yeah,
635
than that TRM
billion with a
model.
B.
Yeah, with a B. And so, let's go back to this AGI one. Let's look for, GPT-5 high, if it's here. Well, I mean, I see GPT-5 low,
Left left
and
side. It's you see
it's
the
it's matching, right?
further
40,
it's
44%. Um,
look to the left and then up a blue dot. That's it's you'll see yeah, that one.
there we go. Well, this is GPT-5 mini,
Five mini high, never mind.
but regular GPT-5 low. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but definitely has significantly higher the amount of parameters than that TRM, and it's scoring less, 1%
Yeah.
less.
And you
So
go back to the GPT-5 Pro. We were kind of looking at this a minute ago of look at the cost of this.
yeah,
Cost per task is, $4.78 rounded up to $5, right? And then just look just across to Cloud Sonnet 4.5. Just the comparison between that and here. I mean, it's only $1 per task,
right.
so
Well, yeah, this is
and there's a
Grok, right? And
4% variance.
yeah, and Sonnet versus
Oh, it's
Grok.
expensive.
Sonnet
Yeah,
is 52 cents,
yeah.
and it's what, 7% less. So
Yeah.
you know,
You
obviously,
think of the
there still needs
resources
to be.
GPT-5 has too, is just I don't really even see how they would have an excuse for that. Like that has got to be the most inefficient model on here. I would venture to believe um that's going to be one of the top three most inefficient models.
Yeah, so like, maybe this hierarchical reasoning from Cornell and this Samsung researcher are might be onto something, maybe. It only took them 7 million parameters to score
Score higher.
comparable
Yeah.
scores, um versus these large giant AI companies making these giant models, thinking that mm, if we make the models bigger, we'll achieve higher scores.
Yeah.
So one thing, if we're going to take something away from this, it's that there seems to be a better way. Now, obviously, there needs to be more testing on this, but you know the all the data is there, right? There's a GitHub repo. There, the white
Yeah.
paper is out there for people to read. So,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, maybe there's a better way, and it looks like there is a better way. So,
I'm sure it'll be like a gradual kind of merger in strategy and resource type stuff as things evolve. That's just kind of how competition works. You see the competition's doing something better, find maybe a more optimized route. And even if it's like, oh, there's another innovation or something like that, they normally adjust. So GPT-5, ChatGPT in general tends to be the most public facing, all the hubbub around it.
Hmm.
mm,
But like you said, I mean, bigger is not always better. And it's like if you had, you know, 100 people on a football team, but they're all middle schoolers versus a team of 10, they're all pros. Like, there's
yeah, man,
maybe a bigger football team, but you have more people on your team, but it's not doesn't mean you got a better quality or you're gonna do more, you know.
Hmm.
yeah, man, I'm not trying to be, pessimistic here about, these large companies, but I'm going to be pessimistic about these large companies. Um, they put all these resources into their one train of thought, and they're investing in these, you know, billions of dollar cost data centers and stuff like that. And all those data centers are predicated on their investors giving them money, um, because of this train of thought of bigger LLMs. They need more compute power, so they need more data centers. So I don't know, if what that means for their future, if they're going to admit that they were wrong and possibly lose that money, and you know will they pivot, you know or will they just continue this route because they don't want to admit they're wrong?
I mean, it's a classic folly for any large company you watch over time that ends up falling apart is people invest and then, like OpenAI, I've voiced this before. My biggest thing that I just despise OpenAI for is them claiming that they're going to be a not-for-profit AI open source company. Then as soon as they saw how much money they can make, they start licking their chops and then keep everybody's money and say, "Oh, we lied."
Yeah, I mean,
And
and my question is, why isn't this bigger news, right? I mean, this came out, a week ago, and I maybe saw maybe two LinkedIn posts about it. Is it OpenAI and other companies, getting their, influencer army out there to,
yeah,
you know,
I think it's algorithm manipulation more than anything.
yeah.
People know ChatGPT more, and there's a lot of smaller models that are always popping up, and it kind of gets lost in the fray. I mean, even DeepSeek, that was hot news for like 2 weeks, and most people have forgotten DeepSeek even exists.
Mm.
So, well,
Yeah.
I don't say most, but most people not in our world they've completely forgot what DeepSeek ever exists or what it does, anything like that, right? So I think
Right.
a
Mm.
lot of it is what's feeding, you know, algorithms. People clicking on ChatGPT things, they're watching ChatGPT things. They're not clicking on overall AI things. They're not watching, the markets for stuff. They're not watching the tech space for stuff like that. So they have no way of really knowing about TRMs. Um, it's really similar to anything, right? Like I follow the space industry a lot, and a lot of people don't know anything that's going on in the space industry because it's not in their clickable space. So they're not going to know about it. There's stuff, global conflicts right now. I mean, you had kind of mentioned the Venezuela thing earlier, and it's like, how many people really know about that? Not a lot. How many people,
Mhm.
Aiden mentioned that he hadn't heard about it for all the years that it's been happening because it's not like hot news. It's not sexy. It's not what's at the front of everybody's, you know, feeds. People aren't clicking anything on it. So,
I
algorithm
mean,
manipulation is super easy. If you can do it on a large scale, you pay creators to, cover your stuff, and whether it's on purpose or inadvertently manipulating
it's on
algorithms.
purpose. It's on purpose.
I'm not going to claim it is or not, but
I'll
I'll leave
claim
it
it.
up
I'll
to
claim it. I'll
people
put my
to
signature on
make
it.
this.
I'll put my signature on it.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think that's why you're not gonna hear about TRM. Like I wouldn't have known about the TRM stuff unless you had mentioned it and then I had done my reading on it. You know what I mean? But that's because what I'm watching right now is mostly stuff around MCP servers and stuff that I'm developing knowledge on rather than kind of these new models popping up and kind of learning what a TRM is because it's not similar to ChatGPT. It's not similar to um, kind of the stuff we're used to with Claude and all of these kind of models and stuff. We're used to using large language models. We're not used to seeing kind of these substitution type things or these newly developed models.
Hmm.
And it's hard to like I've mentioned it before, it's so hard to keep track of everything in the AI bubble. It's just the AI slop and trying to figure out where everything's going. What does this mean? What does that mean? I mean, it's chaos. And if you're not in the world that we're in, a lot of the stuff that I find out through you or other people I work around, like honestly, like doing this podcast weekly helps me stay on top of a lot of stuff too. Like this
Mm.
TRM, I probably would not have come across this for another month or
Never,
so,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So
With that being said, thanks for tuning in to Tech for Thought this week. You can check out all of our related links in the link tree. And yeah, thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks, guys. See you next
thank
week.
you. Yep.